What do Donald Trump and Viktor Yanukovych have in common? They both have the same person trying to improve their reputation. Today we're at Medjugorje, Viktor Yanukovych's last known address in Ukraine. Viktor won't be at home because he had to leave in a hurry in 2014. We're going to be talking about politics, money, and oligarchs. And is it just a problem in Ukraine? I remember seeing this place on the news in 2014. After Viktor Yanukovych left Ukraine quite quickly, the guards just opened the doors, and the Ukrainian public could finally see how the other half lived. But it's really not how the other half lives, is it? A huge amount of Ukraine's wealth is controlled by very few people, oligarchs. And it's not about how much money you have, it's about how you got your money. Oligarchs' money always has political connections. And Medjugorje and Viktor Yanukovych showed the scale of these connections. In the early 1990s, as industries were privatized in Ukraine, some businessmen were in the right place at the right time because someone told them precisely where was the right place and exactly what time to be there. It really paid to have political connections. In societies where fairness and rule of law create the framework, oligarchy has a really bad reputation. With no governing structures in place in the early 1990s as the Soviet Union collapsed, it was kind of like the Wild West here. Viktor Yanukovych had actually served time in prison for assault when he was a young man, and it seems like he had the perfect skill set to do well in this environment. You can argue about what's fair. People might say that these businessmen who became oligarchs took risks and worked very hard. But they would have never made the amount of money they did without political connections. We know that oligarchy inhibits a country's growth, can disrupt the economy, encourages puppet leaders, and encourages inequality because income has a tendency to go up rather than down towards workers. All these things lead to instability, and the Western media is always pointing at Ukraine's oligarch problem. The only consistent factor in Ukraine since the early 1990s is oligarchy. These rich and, as a result, powerful business people are household names. Political actors are new with each transition, but the oligarchs, they don't change. And oligarchs with shared interests can come together and control narratives around them. Just 4 oligarchs own 80% of the TV market here in Ukraine. What if Ukraine tries to de-oligarchize? Oligarchs control critical parts of the economy. They have the power to destabilize the economy, and they could disrupt supply chains for the military or even help the other side. There seems to be a pattern with political transitions here. Political actors conclude that they're either too weak to go up against the oligarchs or that it's just more efficient to work with them. Many political commentators think Ukraine is at that point again. President Volodymyr Zelensky, who promised sweeping reforms, only needed about 6 months before he started bringing back political agents who worked under past administrations and have proven ties to oligarchs. So why do oligarchs even bother with politics? They use economic power to gain political power and in turn use politics to expand their economic power. But there might be another reason. Despite all of their money, they don't have legitimized power. A genuine political mandate is one of the few things that gives legitimacy. Why else would some of Ukraine's richest strive to become politicians and take part in the often mundane and uncomfortable reality of policy making? At election time, voters could really send a message to oligarchs. But they don't. The poor and middle class keep electing the rich, and this isn't just a Ukrainian thing. This happens in the US, the UK, all over the world. In the US, this kind of voting behavior is often explained by the American dream. Wealthy people are often considered to have traits that are admirable. 80% of US presidents are millionaires by today's standards. Research shows that younger people in Ukraine see oligarchs as bad for democracy, but people actually differentiate between oligarchs as a group and individuals. Standing alone, it seems that oligarchs can use their money to get on society's good side. In 2014, that's what the American Paul Manafort did. He worked here with Viktor Yanukovych to improve his reputation. Later, he went on to do the same type of work for Donald Trump. There's a long list of Western democracies that have the same problem with money influencing politics. It's just not a uniquely Ukrainian problem. We've wandered into the chapel here at Mezhihiria, and it's a right place to talk about if you can tell the difference between right and wrong. A good litmus test for a country is whether or not national interests are placed over business interests. What is uniquely Ukrainian is that such a large amount of capital is in the hands of such a small amount of people. Maybe it's good that so many people are watching Ukraine. Maybe they can see similar trends in their own countries. Viktor Yanukovych's house may have been opened up to the public, but most parliaments in Ukraine and in other democratically countries are still closed to most of the population, with politicians are much more wealthy than the average voter. No! It's all shut up! It's also gold! We're here in Viktor Yanukovych's bedroom, where we don't want to think about him having sex.